Hello and welcome to Gutshot, home of the hottest takes for Magic: The Gathering. I am Warcrimes Uwu, also known as Fred, and joining me as always is Aggressive Rhetoric, known to some as Will.
That's right. Welcome to Gutshot, the only MTG podcast that is based and cringe at the same time.
That is right, a walking contradiction, just like libertarianism. So today we are diving into some subject matter that's going to cut our audience in half, but I hope we'll be left with the cool half. I think we will. This is putting Magic: The Gathering cards on a political compass. So some of these are going to be based on their characters. Some of these are going to be based on the way that they play in the game. Some of these are going to be cheap one-off gags. For those of you who aren't aware of what a political compass is, you can take a little quiz. Just Google political compass quiz, but it puts you on two axes based on your responses to the questions. And the up and down axis is how much control you want the government to have over your life. And the left to right axis is how much control you want capital to have over your life. You know, landlords, CEOs, etc. Full disclosure, I am in the bottom left-hand corner of left libertarian. I don't want the government to have any control over my life, and I think that landlords' property should be seized, etc. Will straddles the line between authoritarian and libertarian, but he is also left. He straddles the line because he likes trains.
I consider myself to be a leftist, but I'm not I have not completely given up on the usefulness of the state. So that is about where I am. You know, these political compass memes have really taken off recently, haven't they?
Yeah, but only the ones that like completely misuse the political compass make it onto social media. Other than that, like cursed subreddit.
Well, anything worth doing is worth misunderstanding, right?
True. That's words to live by. Yeah, the Wojaks with those awful 4chan faces. A lot of those were used on political compass memes. A lot of times they'll just take a tweet of someone they disagree with and they'll just highlight a color from the political compass over it. There's a lot of fun discourse. But today we are here to put Magic: The Gathering cards where we think they go on the political compass.
Hey, you all know how Magic players are. We like to be be very hyperbolic about the things that we talk about. You know, we love saying whether things are good or bad, putting them into boxes: playable, unplayable, good, bad, for Timmys, for Spikes, and we're going to do that with a political compass. And I'm really excited for this. I think we have some very based and cringe opinions on this, and this is. Yeah, I think this is going to be a very good exercise and is going to piss off everyone we know.
Yes, and just for the record, Spike is off center, Timmy is lib left, and Johnny is center right.
And where would you put Vorthos? Lib right?
Posadism.
Okay, that sounds good. Hey, how you feel about getting into this one?
Yeah, I feel good about getting into this one. So the first card that we have is Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Now she not only on the card does she tell you what you can and can't do, but she is also a member of the church. So I went ahead and I would argue that she is far right, leaning pretty heavily into authoritarian. I envision her as someone who, you know, she shares a lot of stuff from like a Facebook page called Dank Catholic Memes.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
She's a Cath. She imagines herself as like the trad wife Wojak in the little flower dress. She went to community college to get an MRS degree, but she's like too weirdly conservative for even the like college Republican club. So it looks like she's not going to get out of community college with that MRS degree.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely wants to be a trad wife. But like, yeah, the control effect on the card really sealed the deal for me in putting her in off right.
She does really resemble almost every woman commentator anchor on Fox News, doesn't she? And all the art that we have of her.
Yeah.
This makes a lot of sense. So, in Innistrad, it was really the monsters, the horrors, the non-human part versus the humans. And Thalia, other than like Micaius, is like the face of the humans, the human resistance against the horrors of Innistrad, and that just really parallels the Authorite experience, right? It's us against the others.
Yeah, and everyone else is a monster. I could totally see her going on Newsmax or some other crazy fucking website and talking about how immigrants are werewolves and are vampires or whatever. Yeah, that totally fits.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anyone could criticize this one. I think you nailed this one perfectly.
Thank you. So next one, this is one of your favorite characters in Magic. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take the wheel and explain why you feel this character belongs here.
Yeah, I just full disclosure. I love Elspeth. She is my favorite character in Magic, and I put her in Authorite. We have to remember we first see her on Bant, which had no red or black mana. I would really describe Bant as like lawful good hierarchy, the plane. It's all about. Yeah, it's all about. It's all about fighting each other in bloodless battles to create a hierarchy, but no one actually dies. So there's a bit of like greater good there, where like no one is actually hurt, but exactly who is the most powerful, who has like a social capital over others, and I just think that puts her squarely in this quadrant.
Yeah, I think I would largely agree, especially if you're talking specifically about her Bant incarnation. I will say, when she killed Heliod on Theros, that was a sort of rejection of unjust authority. That was like a sort of hoisting off of someone who had shown that they were not worthy to lead. And I think that's a little bit more lib-lefty to me, just sort of the anarchist sentiment of like hierarchies are not justified and they have to prove themselves as worthy, and she's sort of setting things right by displacing an unjust hierarchy. But I think if you're taking into account specifically her Bant incarnation, how she's sort of the mascot of Bant, I think Oth left nails it.
I totally hear what you're saying, and you are right. I wouldn't say that rejecting unjust authority automatically makes you anti-authority. Because you can say this government is unjust, but like a government like it with the unjust parts taken out is the best way to go forward. I haven't really seen anything to kind of say that she wouldn't just be of that mind. But you're absolutely right. I could definitely see a bit closer to lib left than up towards the top, but I think this is a good fit for her.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think I'd agree. So next we've got Tesserat the Seeker. So he's from Esper, and he has a metal arm that he sort of like bends to do stuff that he needs. He's a metallurge. I don't remember the exact word. Someone in the comments will correct me very kindly. They can bend metal to their will and do like machine magic. And I think it has a very transhumanist vibe, which is mostly lib left, but also kind of lib center, just, using machines and augmentations to escape the tethers of like the biological world of our bodies that we're born into, which is a really cool thing. Something that hit great game with nothing wrong with it. Cyberpunk 2077, I think, tried to touch on. I don't know. I haven't played it. But the fact that he sold out to Bolus just to like get more material for his research or whatever definitely takes him out of lib left. And I think I put him in lib center, not like return to monkey lib center, but just like, I don't want a lot of hierarchy around me, but I just kind of want to pursue my own edification.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know that he was working under Bolus for quite a while, but that was really more like subjugation, right? He wasn't really doing that out of his own free will.
Oh, okay. I thought it was because Bolus promised him like knowledge and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but yeah, it definitely wasn't you're powerful and I want to follow you because you're powerful. It was it was definitely not 100% bought into what Bolus was doing. So regardless of whether it was being subjugated, being held against his will, or just because he thought that doing so would be the best, most profitable option for him. Yeah, I think this is good. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't put him towards authoritarianism at all. So I think this is a good spot for him.
Yeah, I think so too. So this next one is pretty controversial between the two of us. I think we'll have a heated disagreement. I don't have a lot of stock in this character, but this card that I put up here is definitely one of my favorite cards of all time. And Will says that it's off-center. Tell us about why.
Yeah, so I'm not going to sit here and say I know too much about all the details of the Ixalan story. I haven't really read all that. But Ongroth, he is known as a captain of a ship, a pretty brutal one as far as I know, in the Ixalan story. And if you know anything about, like, captains of ships, and especially captains of pirate ships, where, you know, it takes a lot of authority to be able to hold those. You know, there's constant threat of mutiny and, you know, just the outside threats of other ships, and then, you know, weather and all the dangers of captaining a ship. If you are a captain of a ship, if you are a captain of a ship, I don't think you can be anything other than off-center. It's just what you have to do to be able to run a ship.
Okay, see, I would think came at it from a completely different angle. I came at it from, like, what's a pirate's goal? To plunder and get treasure. So I would say live right. You know, it's completely economically motivated. You could imagine Angrath as a sort of Randian Superman, if you believe in fairy tales like The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. He sort of has gained control because he's the smartest and best, and so he gets the most treasure. I think pirates' motivation put them in live right, but I think there is a good argument for an authoritarian ship captain. I think what's interesting is if you wanted to put him in auth right, you could argue that the -3, sort of pressing someone into service and then sacrificing them, could be a metaphor for how fascism calls to a prelapsarian past. It sort of envisions a time when we were the greatest, and then takes young men into its ranks and then sort of sacrifices them when they're not useful anymore.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I could definitely buy that argument. I do like what you said about you know, being a pirate, being a rejection of traditional states and authority. But I would push back on that. How do they do that? By creating their own mini state within the ship that they're in charge of. So it's rejecting other authority for your own type of authority. So I can't agree that would be anywhere towards libertarianism.
I think that's largely what Libright is about. I think Libright lies to itself about being anti-authority. They just want it structured a different way. I think there's a decent case for Angrath anywhere but lib left, but I think I buy the center explanation.
Sure. Yeah. This he could definitely go around. I mean, honestly, he's going to go wherever's profitable for him. I mean, that is what that's what the pirates do. So, we'll leave him here for the time being.
Sure. So next we've got and I've represented this with eye blight colors because it's sort of it's a good representation of this. But, you know, back on, I believe, I guess original Lorwyn block, or maybe this story was expanded upon in Origins. That's where I found out about it. The elves of Lorwyn being super racist, like eugenicist, like purity stuff.
Yeah.
They chase down the eye blights, which are creatures they don't think are beautiful, specifically like goblins, and hunt them out of their woods so that everyone in their woods will be beautiful. That's a pretty clear auth right. You can just imagine some like wannabe Republican senator that's like came straight off of 4chan that gets, you know, not enough votes to get even close to winning, but a startling amount of votes that makes you lose your faith in humanity. You can just imagine like just somebody tweeting something about how these fucking eye blights coming into my country. This used to be a country for elves. And I think the elves of Lorwyn are very interesting. And I think if you sort of contrast Nissa against them, it puts her in like lib left or center left. But they are definitely fascists. This is definitely an allegory for fascism.
Yeah, definitely. With some of these, we're kind of, you know, being a little silly with it. We're kind of adding our own little canon to it. But the Lorwyn elves are literally just coded to be, like that authorite, like us over everyone else. We are in charge. We will subjugate you to our to the type of society that we want to have. Yeah. So you can't really argue that this is anywhere else. And I would also say a really great a great and different look to elves from what we normally get in Magic the Gathering, when they're normally put as like lawful good. You would really have to like look into the subtext to kind of see the dystopia in their society.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a good depiction of that ideology that doesn't like glorify it. It's sort of just like a lot of fantasy depictions of fascism will inadvertently glorify it or praise it. And I think this one does a really good job showing why just kind of like sad and disheveled people who are blaming an other for their problems.
Yeah, this is a great place to put them.
Yeah. So next we've got your pick for a filthy sadness. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I want to talk about Sarkin, who's been in the story for quite a while now, ever since we kind of what was his first one? His first card was in Alara. Yeah, so it's been about a little over 10 years that he's been a part of the game, and we have seen him in almost every color other than white so far. He's definitely base red, but we've seen him as solid red, red green, red black, and then the most recent Sarkin that I am recalling off of memory is Sarkin Unbroken, which is green, blue, red. And I'm just saying, man, just hey. I know that you're a centrist because you just need to pick a color, man. Just choose which color you want to be in. You can't just keep picking colors left and right and dropping them willy nilly. Just pick a color, my dude.
Yeah. I think I feel the same way. I mean, he has been red in his past couple incarnations, but he did spend a long time getting there. In fact, he even went back in time to yell at Ugin and Nicol Bolas that he just wants to grill.
Yep.
Help anything, just fucked everything up because he didn't know what he was doing. I think Center describes him perfectly.
Yeah, for sure. Just pick a color, man. Just do it. Just pick a color.
So next we're going to look at Daxos of Melitus. So part of Daxos' lore is actually tied into Elspeth. He died like fighting alongside her, and he came back as a returned just to try to come back and help her. So I have put him in sort of center off right because he's hashtag still with her.
Oh yeah.
I that he would definitely be like shaming people on Twitter for spelling folks with a KS instead of an X. Like totally being fine with poor people like straight up being murdered in the street.
I would map him exactly where Hillary Clinton would be mapped on a political compass, and we both know that's not in the green quadrant.
Correct. Yeah. So I put him in like center blue.
Yeah, I would say that, definitely like faux progressive on the front, but nothing fundamentally will change on underneath.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where Daxos of Melitus is. Now, this is our first character to go in the pedo quadrant. Would you like to tell us why?
Okay, so we got, let's just be honest, the poster boy for Magic the Gathering. We have Jaced, and we've had many iterations of Jacest. I believe every single one of them has been mono blue, right?
Yeah, Nissa got Jacest got green for a second, but no, Nissa got blue. So yeah, they've all been mono blue.
Right. So I would say, and the joke is that every like male cis Magic player identifies with Jacest, and Jacest definitely seems to be designed to be like the person that the stereotypical Magic player identifies with. I
personally identify with Goblin Stink Drinker.
Yeah, I would definitely put you there too, for sure. So I gotta say, I think Jacest, lib right, most likely out of all the MTG characters to both wear a fedora. I mean, you can see it, right?
Yeah, it's basically there.
Yeah.
The illusion did away for this photo, but
right. Most likely to wear a fedora and also own Bitcoin. I mean, he's mono blue mage, thinks he's super smart, thinks that he's going to make so much money investing all of his mana into Bitcoin, and I guess we'll just see how that turns out for you, man.
Yeah, it's illusory. He's definitely Jace the living non-aggression principle. And I think the other thing is, a lot of people have been getting angry that he's not the poster boy anymore, and that like they killed off Gideon, and that female characters are getting some attention. So I think Libright definitely fits for all of the piss babies whining about how SJWs are ruining Magic because one of the female planeswalkers is good and they haven't printed a good Jace in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. To punctuate it, Jace is Libright because the majority of Magic players are Libright. I mean, that's just how it is.
Oof. Unfortunate for our community. But yeah, so next we've got a real return to monkey character.
I bet you have a lot to say about this.
I do. So I love Garruk Wildspeaker as a card. Let me just say that first off. Mono Green Devotion is my shit. He will always have a place there. Now, we on this podcast have some hot takes about the Unabomber.
Yes,
I think he had a banger of a manifesto, but he was definitely like a misogynist incel, and he did not put the leftist principles that he talked about into practice. He was also pretty sloppy. Bombs are based, but not when they kill innocent people.
Yeah. Killing people is just no good. It's no good.
Killing innocent people is just no good. So Garruk kind of just wants to like there's two kinds of I just want to live alone. There's the centrist kind, like don't bother me with politics, and then there's the sort of lib center kind, the like don't let any government anywhere near me. Garruk hates humans. He bonds with beasts, which I mean could make him a furry, in which case I think that would be lib left. But I'm going to be charitable to him and say he just wants to escape civilization and just return to monkey, and that is lib center.
So would you go as far as saying that he is based in Tesserat?
Yeah, I would. I would say he's based in Tesserat.
For me, maybe not based, but definitely Tesserat, regardless of how you feel about all that.
Yeah, he +1s to untap 2 target lands so he can build a cabin.
I have very fond memories of playing the original Garruk and Jund, like way back when it was in standard. I don't think you can argue against this. And the most Tesserat out of all the cards.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the best. He was one of the best planeswalkers for a long time, and I just love him in Mono Green Devotion. Untapping some Utopia Sprawls, just mwah.
So now that green is like by far the best color in recent sets, by far, if Garruk gets a new card and drops the black and just becomes a mono green planeswalker, he is just going to be the most powerful planeswalker, in that standard. Would you think that would be the case?
That happened in the last core set. And the fact that we did not remember about that speaks to how they did not do that. Last Garruk absolutely fucking sucked.
Give him another chance. Just give on a long enough timeline. Wizards will create a broken green mythic. So give them time. They'll get there.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. I mean, we got Elder Gargaroth. We got pretty close, but maybe the next one will be a Garruk. So speaking of characters we love, character you love is coming up next, and we actually talked a little bit about this in 2 episodes ago. But yeah, take it away.
Yeah, so it's everyone's favorite Joker character, Tibalt the Fiend-Blooded. He is unfortunately considered to be a joke by the majority of the Magic player base. And in the previous episode, I talked about why I don't think that's the case. I want to talk about why he's based this time. He is, I believe, squarely in lib left, and I mean, who is most likely to show up to a riot? Right? I mean, it's Tibalt. Tibalt's going to be the person who you see in all the phone captured footage of riots and all the insane things that happens. He's going to be right in the middle of it. So riots, he's going to be there.
Yeah, I will say I see him less as like a lib left rioter and more as like a French yellow vest rioter, where like you're not sure if he even has political opinions. He kind of just wants to cut somebody's head off.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, because the yellow vests were kind of hard to pin down, political philosophically, right?
Yeah, some of them were like libertarians. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was interesting for sure. I think I could agree if you could demonstrate that he wanted to improve the world in some way. I think I could put him in. I could see putting him in lib left.
I think what puts it over the edge into lib left is that haircut.
I think the other thing that puts it over the edge into lib left is that his -6 takes all the creatures from your opponent for the turn, and that definitely represents infighting. So that puts him on the left.
Okay, yeah, let's go with that. It's really more of a culmination situation. Yeah, but I think the everything else plus the fact that he is all for tearing things down puts him in lib left.
Yeah, for sure. So here we've got next is Torment of Scarabs. Now this is sort of a stand-in for all of the Torment cards: Torment of Hailfire, Torment of Scorpions. I think I don't fucking know. The Scarabs and Hailfire were the two good ones, but they basically ask you to lose 3 life unless you sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. And I am viewing this as a allegory for libertarianism, where the hierarchy of the state is removed, but it's kind of just replaced with the hierarchy of of capital. In that, like, have you ever argued with a libertarian and they tell you, like, you don't like your job, just get another one. That's the free market. You don't like your apartment's too expensive, go find another one to live in. That's the free market.
I don't argue with people about politics online. I stay far away from that.
Oh, your mental health must be much better than mine. Torment of Scarabs sort of represents that to me, in that it's like, oh, if you don't want to pay 3 life, just sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. You got all these options in the free market. And if you can't afford the life, you have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's not my fault that you don't have any cards in your hand or non-land permanents. You know what I mean? This just gives me that sort of vibe. Like, don't tread on me unless you're my landlord.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it really is a false choice. It's presented as a good that you have choice, even though all the choices are absolutely awful for you, and do not take your well-being into consideration. As long as somebody is benefiting from it, handsomely, then it's then that's the way things should be. I think this is a good place for this card.
Absolutely. So next, we've got Niv Mizzet the Firemind. Now tell me why you put him where you put him.
Yeah. So I'm going to say that he is right center, so kind of straddling the line between those. Because whenever I hear about Niv Mizzet, especially that flavor text that you can see on the screen right now, I really get flashbacks to, and I kind of dabbled in this myself when I was younger, but in the mid 2000s, that's when like the New Atheist really came out. Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, that were very much into that, free thinking and questioning the status quo of religion. Now that we're about 15, 20 years away from that, all of those people are at least alt-right adjacent. So,
oh yeah,
absolutely. I mean, if you want to talk about pipelines, I think that's probably the cleanest pipeline you can prove exists. So yeah, so Niv Mizzet, he's definitely the guy that's on YouTube right now, recording 4-hour streams about how something isn't racist, but is close enough to being racist that it's like there's absolutely no difference. Or they're at least being that. So I would put him right on the center of right.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. The flavor text with all the equations and stuff, like, just seem kind of like one of those YouTube channels where there's like a couple cool physics experiments, so you're supposed to also listen to them when they talk to you about how there's a conspiracy to put miscegenation in the fucking backyardigans or whatever, to convince people to do race mixing, or like is convinced that social media is run by Jews or something. So like they put on this sort of facade of intellectualism and science so that they can spout conspiracy theories to you through their YouTube channel from their like mom's basement. And Niv Mizzet absolutely has that vibe. I think you've nailed it.
Yeah, the flavor text, once you translate it, literally says Niv is number 1. I mean, what can be more right than that?
That's pretty interesting. I did not know that. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, that's where I'd put him.
Yeah. So next we've got War of the Spark Karn. Now, forgive me for a cheap shot, but this one actually has a static ability that says activated abilities of artifacts your opponent's control can't be activated, and I put him in off left because that ability basically makes it so there's no food.
That's yeah, you got it.
Um,
I've actually won a game of Historic recently because I was playing like mono red vehicles with Karn, and so, I was kind of beating down a little bit, and they were trying to lean on the fact that they were creating a bunch of food to kind of live while they were trying to outlive my permanents, and I think I got them on that. They made a play that only made sense if they were going to gain life off the food, and then I attacked and I won. So that totally makes
yeah,
sense.
that opponent must have been a real dumbass.
What an absolute weapons grade rutabaga.
Total fucking dipshit. Absolutely scum of the earth dumbass.
No. Okay, yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that's the meme, right? Is that off left, the bread lines in the Soviet Union, that there will be no food. Definitely fodder for the political compass memes. Definitely the butt of the joke when that quadrant comes up on that subreddit.
Yeah, and definitely don't look into the American sanctions of those countries that might cause that lack of resources. Definitely consider that at all.
Right, for sure. Karn is kind of known as being a pacifist, but now that he's gotten off of New Phyrexia, and it seems like he might be kind of thinking about a way to hit back at New Phyrexia and try to take them out once and for all. So this newfound lust for attacking and violence might kind of put him more into off left as well.
Yeah. The artifact that you choose from outside of the game is a Kalishnikov.
Or a Russian nesting doll.
Equally violent.
I think this is a good place to put him.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so next you've put Teferi on the chart. Tell us about where and why.
Excuse me. Excuse me, professional podcaster here. Okay. Teferi, you know him, you love him, huge figure in early Magic, came back recently as a full-fledged main character to lots of people's excitement who love the story, and a lot of derision for people who hate his cards. But on the political compass, I'm going to put him lib center, so pretty close to Garuk and Tesserat. I don't really know why. It just feels right. I gotta be honest. I don't really want to put him centrist because he cares and he has wants to enact his vision on the world. But I just think it sounds right. What do you think?
I actually think I would put him in off left. Off because of his static ability. Each opponent can cast spells only anytime they can cast a sorcery. Any card that's telling your opponent what they can and can't do belongs in authoritarian. And then left because he can go back in time and do real communism this time.
Well, yeah, that's definitely that's true. Well, I would say, other than Time Raveler, which I will just say, was a mistake of a card, all of his other cards don't really have that vibe. They really have more of a, I'm sitting here doing my own thing. I'm going to stop you from doing what you're doing. But to be honest, I'm not really doing anything myself. I'm just drawing cards and gaining all this mana. So I do think that the Lib Center is a good place.
Yeah. You can say you're just.
I see your point for sure.
Yeah, I think it's harder to find the Teferi card that wasn't a mistake. Well, no, think about it. His original incarnation, the blue one, is top tier in Commander. It's one of the best CEDH decks. Time Raveler got banned from several formats, and the Dominaria Teferi was pretty oppressive in Standard and has a healthy place in Modern now. But the fact that they didn't ban it from Standard drove some people away.
I do hate playing against 5-mana Teferi, regardless of whether it's fair or not. It definitely doesn't feel good to play against.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You show me a fair Teferi, and I'll show you the one from the Planeswalker deck.
For sure, which is really unfortunate because he really is a really well-loved character by old Magic players and new Magic players alike. It's unfortunate that his cards cause so much negative feelings, for such a well-liked character.
Absolutely, yeah. I think like some of the most well-loved Teferi cards aren't actually Teferi. It's like Teferi's protection, things like that. Like sort of cards that are a time wipe, things that are adjacent to him or feature him but aren't actually him.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm gonna grip it and rip it real quick. Yeah. Woo. Mandarin orange fizzy water.
It is a San Pellegrino.
Sorry, I was swallowing my drink.
No, you're fine. So next I've got another little cheap shot at my own quadrant.
Here's where we gave up.
No, it's not. There's later. Limited All-Star, one of the best commons printed in Limited in a long time. Fanbearer from Amonkhet, and I put it in lib left because it has only fans.
Oh, I know about this. I've heard about this before. So people who play Magic and they draw way more lands than they need can actually sell those lands to other players who are mana screwed and don't have lands in their hands. I've heard about this. Only lands.
Yeah, only lands.
No, I'm sorry. I'm talking about something else. Excuse me. No, I do know what you're talking about though. It's when it's when you have an account that bans every single card. Anytime you like invest money into a deck and you get super excited and you goldfish it on your deck over and over again, and then you take it to one tournament and then you find out that there was a ban that that previous day and you can't play your deck. Only bans.
Yeah.
That was bad. I'm sorry.
Never mind. Making a joke that's probably too edgy for the podcast.
You're most likely not attacking with this card, so you're only using the fan.
Yeah. So only fans.
I like this.
Yeah. But next we've got some real discussion, and I'll let you take it away. Where'd you put Daretti?
I think Daretti is lib left pretty strongly. And for a simple reason, for anyone that knows, Daretti and how his character is designed, he fights pretty hard for disability rights, and that's based.
Yeah, he had his leg blown off in a experimental accident. And okay, so I had a neighbor whose limb was blown off in their when their garage exploded. But they had a Confederate flag on their porch. Pretty sure their garage was a meth lab. This is a different kind of explosion. It was sort of he's been fighting for disability rights and using his extreme knowledge of machines to try to help liberate the people of Pollyanna.
You bring up a great point. I didn't specify this when we created this, but doing like backyard explosions and pyrotechnics really puts him more towards libertarianism. But the fact that afterwards that he is fighting for these disability rights pulls him over. So maybe a little bit towards yellow, but I would say in lib left.
Yeah, well, interesting side note, a lot of it feels like every libertarian has almost all terrible opinions, but they care about one based thing. Like that awful Facebook page, Libertarian Guys with Asian Wives, that I really want to believe is satire. They are on a crusade against spanking your children, which I think is objectively based. But all of their other opinions are fucking trash. I mean, they're libertarians, but there will be libertarians who are super into BLM and they're awful on everything else, but they do care about this one thing. And I think Daretti might be that, but with disability rights.
I can believe that. This is like we were talking about just privately a while ago. I fully believe that as humans, we have no obligation to make logical sense. We can be logically inconsistent on a lot of things. I think that's just the human experience, and maybe we're seeing that here with the libertarians and with Daretti and some other things. I at least want to make sure that everyone who listens to this podcast knows that I reserve the right to be logically inconsistent, and you can't criticize me for it.
Okay, yeah, and Daretti I think really speaks to the goblin experience, the human experience,
rolling around in trash.
Right. But sometimes you get dynamite strapped to you and you get thrown into a crowd of people if you're a goblin.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's where I'm putting them. I feel it fits.
Yeah. I agree. So next we've got something kind of interesting. Now this is my partner's favorite card. And I was asking her like for ideas when we were coming up with this, and she listed this one. And I think this one's a doozy to try to classify.
Yeah.
Queen Among Bears. I thought about this for a while. She distributes +1/+1 counters. She makes people fight. You know that distributing +1/+1 counters is pretty left. Making people fight is pretty lib. So maybe lib left, right?
Yeah.
But she's a queen. And then I remembered some, you know what kind of ideologies only really exist in theory? There's like weird Twitter people and like Reddit people who have these ideologies, but there's no real way to put them into practice.
I think I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, one of them is social monarchy, where you want the benefit of monarchy, which is that a ruler can be raised from birth to learn how to be just and good at ruling, but you want them to implement socialist policies that will benefit the proletariat. I think this is ridiculous and impossible.
It does seem a little silly.
Yeah, there are people who at least claim to believe that social monarchy could work. I think if social monarchy is to work, a Eula Queen Among Bears would be the one to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I would say the target bear you control fights target creature you don't control kind of just by itself puts it into off left. But honestly, coming up with systems that work on paper and don't work in reality, I would say it's also pretty off left, right?
Yeah. I think I don't know where social monarchy would be, because I think within a couple generations of like advisors and probably within like generations, it would shift over to auth-right pretty easily.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, constant drift.
Is concentrated, you know. But yeah, for the one generation that social monarchy maybe allegedly works, a Eula would be running that shit.
I think so.
Yeah. So the other kind of authoritarianism, you have put the Royal Scions, Will Rowan. I don't know, will she? Over auth-right category. Explain yourself.
Honestly, I don't think this one requires much explanation. I have put them in auth-right for what I think are obvious reasons. Would you agree?
Yeah, generally. I mean, they're white and they have blonde hair, and they are the heirs to a royal bloodline.
They're white.
Yeah.
They are the whitest of white with the blonde hair, and are what I assume are like prince and princess or whatever the word would be in Eldraine. They're very clearly like they are ascending to the throne and creating a ethno state as they do it.
Yeah, and they share a spark, which other royal bloodlines that are definitely auth-right could be described as having siblings sharing a spark. The Habsburgs come to mind.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I think auth-right is definitely a good place to put them.
They should enjoy their good looks while they can, because once future generations of these scions come into being, they are not going to look right.
Yeah, they're going to be half elk, and they're going to have more toes than they should.
And they'll bleed if you look at
them. Yeah. Yeah, like already they're on the same card. Pretty soon they're going to be the same person. So this next one, I had some difficulty deciding where it goes. I think Bloodbraid Elf is definitely a Posadist because it can cascade into Pyroclasm. You don't know what it's going to hit. It just, look at that art. They just want to watch the world burn. But I don't know where Posadism goes on the political compass, because I think it's a little bit too ridiculous.
Real quick, because I'm honestly a little confused on this. Can you define Posadism for me?
Okay, Posadism is an extension of the philosophy of accelerationism. Accelerationism is the belief that social change will require a war that wipes out most of the human race, or at least largely redefines everyone's values and lifestyles. An accelerationist leftist would argue that we need to keep Trump in office so that he can destroy the morale of the American people so we can have a proletariat uprising. I disagree with that, of course. Posadism is the idea that we need to accelerate toward nuclear war.
Oh, okay.
Completely wipe out the human population, or almost entirely wipe it out. I'm trying to think of like actual Posadist. There's cults that are Posadist. Collapse cults, like the Sexy Garfield collapse cult.
Oh, okay.
Things like that just kind of want everyone to die or most people to die so that we can move into an era of either like humans are unredeemable and they all need to die. That's a brand of Posadism, or only a few humans that can survive nuclear war will then be able to know the horror of nuclear war and build a civilization that will not repeat that mistake. But we need to accelerate toward nuclear war.
Based question mark? Who knows who's to say?
I would unbased. I do not like Posadism. I think I have a little bit. Call me cringe, but I think I have a little bit too much faith in humanity to be a Posadist.
No, I think we can unequivocally say on this podcast, as the official gut shot stance, that nuclear war, not good.
I don't know. Show me a couple more Pete Buttigieg tweets, and maybe I'll turn into Posadist.
Maybe.
I wasn't exactly sure where to put Bloodbraid Elf, but definitely a Posadist. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh no, this makes a lot of sense. She is in. We know her as a Jund card. Maybe a few other things, but like, what is Jund if not an increase an increase in accelerationism towards the ending of Magic the Gathering, right?
Yeah. And just like a lot of violence going on, devour, those kinds of mechanics. But yeah, I think Cascade is definitely leans toward Posadist tendencies.
I think you're right.
Yeah, you've got a little gag coming up. Why don't you tell us about where Great is?
No, this is 100% serious. I want to have a very long, in-depth discussion about where this card belongs. But I do want to talk about Great Whale, the classic card from Urza's Saga? Yes.
Urza's Oreos, based on this.
Right. Great Whale, you know it, you love it. I'm going to say that Great Whale is centrist, and here's why. And I want to have a big conversation about this. It just wants to krill, for God's sakes.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that. Commander Staple Great Whale. I just want to krill.
Just want to krill. And also it's a whale and has no concept of politics, but it also wants to krill. So centrist. I think everyone would agree on this one.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty easy one. And then we've got one more pretty easy one. Tome Anima for pretty bad draft card from M21.
Okay, all right. So all I've been thinking about all day today is I want to know what Frederick's opinion on this really a very medium draft card from a core set. I got to know what Fred thinks about this.
Okay, yeah. So I put Tome Anima in off left. All of the books are the theory that it's reading, and it won't shut the fuck up about how you need to read theory. And the fact that some of the books are flying around the room like birds is a reference to the fact that this person also never leaves Twitter.
That makes sense. Yeah. This reminds me of the time I went to a socialist student gathering at a college, and it was pretty much just like a bunch of guys just sitting around, reading books and talking about the books and not actually going out and doing anything with that knowledge. I would definitely put Tome Anima as the person running that type of group.
Yeah, it can't even go out and do a food serve or anything because it's a spirit. It just fucking reads theory and tells you to read theory and talks down to you because you haven't read theory. And that's why it goes in off left.
You can't see it in real life.
Exactly, yeah. Go down to, come on down to lib left, where you don't have to read any theory, but you get to do all the base shit like food serves and yelling at cops.
That's good. Looking at what we have here, I'm actually really impressed with the I was worried that we would put all the cards in one or two quadrants, that we would really load up on making lib right the butt of the joke, but we really spread it around this time.
Yeah, we definitely dunked on the pedo quadrant a little bit, but that actually has the least cards of any of the quadrants.
Yeah, that's it. I think we actually took the time to think critically about this.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, and looking at this final compass, you can see where we put all of the cards. I want to know where you would put your favorite cards on the political compass. So now it's time for you to respond with your thoughts, dear audience.
Yes, please interact with us. Give us some engagement. This is your call to action. Get into the comments, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. But where your favorite MTG characters, where would you put them? How much of an anti-intellectual bumpkin am I for having these terrible opinions? We want to hear all of it. Get into the comments, tweet at us on Twitter at GutshotPod. Please let us know what you think about what we've done here.
Where is Charging Badger? Where is Stormcrow? Where do these go on the political compass? We're asking important questions to sort of crowdsource answers from our audience, so don't let us down.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think we did a good job. I think the world is a better place now that we have done this work, and I just can't wait to see what the Magic community does with us.
Absolutely, yeah. I agree. I'm happy with the way that this looked. Maybe we'll do another episode far in the future, but go ahead and leave an angry comment about how your favorite character isn't a libertarian or how you are a libertarian so that we can go ahead and ban you.
Oh, yes, please flare up. Tell us exactly which quadrant you are before you tell us anything so we know exactly how to put you down.
Yeah, whether to take you seriously or not.
Oh,
but
yeah. Yeah, if we do this in the future, I reserve the right to change my opinions on all of this and have completely inconsistent and different opinions than what I've put here today. Please do not pin me down.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's go ahead and button this one up. How do you feel about that?
For sure. Yeah, I think we should button this one up.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Gutshot. We really appreciate that you're here with us, episode after episode. We really appreciate it. You can follow me at AgroRhetoric on Twitter. My boy Frederick is at WarCrimesUwoo on Twitch. And you can follow the show on Twitter at GutshotPod.
I have been WarCrimesUwoo, the guy at your LGS who keeps trying to convince you that Lightning Bolt is an overrated card. You have enjoyed, I hope, this episode of Gutshot, the only MTG podcast that says you can't win the game in its text box. Join us next week for more Gutshot.
Later.